Now let's turn our attention to a conversation that's challenging long-held assumptions in education. As we rethink what success looks like for students, it's important to ask, are we creating pathways that truly match their skills, interests, and real-world opportunities? Our next session, are we sending too many kids to college and not enough to trade schools? This invites us to look beyond the traditional route to consider a broader spectrum of possibilities. Please put your hands together for this next session's moderator. We have Armond James, a teacher at Empyrean Teacher Club, and our panelists, we have Colleen Fiammengo, educator and healthcare consultant at Periop Nursing Consultants, as well as Laura McDonald, the dean at Kwantlen Polytechnic University, Nakia Avery, the CEO of Avery Consulting Services LLC, and Julius L. Cartwright, the president of Apex Multifaceted Inc. Please welcome them all to the stage for this next discussion.
Great. So good afternoon, everybody. I'll get us started as we were introduced. My name is Laura McDonald. I'm the Dean for the Faculty of Trades and Technology. Actually, following Sterling's speech, I feel odd right away starting with what I do. Not gonna lie. But that's how we introduce ourselves, and in this context, that's what's important as opposed to Sterling's presentation. So I am going to say, I'm the Dean for the Faculty of Trades and Technology at Kwantlen Polytechnic University. It's a university just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So I've flown up for the weekend, or the week, I guess, to be here and present with my esteemed colleagues. So looking forward to the conversation today. We're missing one member of our panel. So at the last minute, I'm thrown in as moderator. So please give me forgiveness, channel that Sterling, and recognize it's not my problem. I am just here doing my best. So I will hand it on over. We'll introduce the panel, and then we'll get into some really interesting questions and conversations.
Okay, yes. Well, good day to everybody. My name is Julius Cartwright. I'm the president of Apex Multifaceted. And what we do, Inc., is we work with career readiness, and we deal with this very topic of college versus trades. And right at the intersection is trying to offer more options to high school students, as opposed to taking a person to a restaurant and there's 5 things on the menu and that's all you can order. We want to expand that menu to include and incorporate trade schools because it's an overlooked option. And that's what we do, and that's what we bring to the table.
Thank you. I am Dr. Nakia Avery, newly Dr. Nakia Avery. My publication will be out 1st of September.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes.
That's big. It's the roles and responsibilities of educational leaders in literacy. What we do at Avery Consulting Services is we are educational strategists as well as workforce strategists. We help individuals who are in the workforce, K through 12, with soft skills, with company policies, regulations, and things that they need to know to be successful in the workforce. In education, we have designed a 4-in-1 process for educators when they walk in the building. It doesn't seem like 1,000 things that you need to do in order to prepare your students for academics, but there are 4 things that you can look at that will help them to move those scales of underperforming schools from D's to C's and C's to B's. And so we provide them with a 4-in-1 strategy so that underperforming schools can be able to attain funding and be recognized for moving in academic levels.
Hello, everyone. My name's Colleen Fiammengo, and I've spent 40 years in healthcare as an operating room nurse and educator. And I finally have my dream job. That's how long it takes to get your dream job, it seems like. And I have always done lots of different things, even while always being very clinically active. I just gave that piece up this January. But I currently do legal nurse consulting as an expert witness. I do curriculum development for operating rooms and really any kind of education platforms within healthcare. And I also consult with our business and industry partners in medical device companies. Basically, they want to know what's in a nurse's head, and every time I do one of those projects, I think, oh my goodness, I got paid for telling them what I think and what I already know, and it was the easiest thing in the world. So that's why I have my dream job, because it's what I'm finally doing is what I want to be doing, with people who value what I have to offer them. So one of the other things that we were going to talk about is why is it important for us to talk about the things we're going to talk about today. And I think it's important for us to talk about this because I don't know about any of you, but at 17, did any of you know what you wanted to be or do or work and I see these, my own kids, people asking them when they were going off to school, well, what do you want to do? What are you going to major in? I don't know, like beer on Friday night. Isn't that what I want to major in? They don't know what they want to do. And for us to put that kind of pressure on them at this early stage, plus how many people start doing one thing and then do 5 other things before they're all done working. So that's why I think it's important for us to talk about it.
Yes. Also, I agree with you. We even get to the age of 40 and 50 and we're still trying to decide what it is that we want to grow up and who we want to be in life. So sometimes we see students who admire us and what we do and they say, well, I want to be like you, but we're still deciding ourselves. This topic was important for me because it is a very competitive world, is it not? And as educators, we have the responsibility of helping students with preparing for the future. Not just preparing for the future and preparing for the workforce, but preparing to be good community leaders. I work with school counselors on soft skills because many students, even though they go to college and they get jobs, many of them are not attaining those jobs after 1 year because they lack in soft skills. And what are your soft skills? These are your transferable skills that can be used anywhere. Time management, being flexible, teamwork, communication. So although we're talking about college versus trade school or what we call CTEs in school, we have to also put that focus on what they're learning when it means to be and what it means to be a good community member within that job, within their schools, and then within the workforce.
And it's very important for what we do because it's spot on. It just simply aligns directly with what we're already focusing on in all of our efforts and all the work that we do. First and foremost, I applaud anyone that goes to college or has applied to college and looking for a college degree. But I would have to argue the fact that growing up, most of us were told, go to college, get a degree. But the dynamics have changed and everything's changing now to trades. And trades is, many cases, it's a shorter time period. They can get into the work. And then if they have to pivot and decide to go back to school, there's still an opportunity to go back to school. And a lot of schools offer trades, but they don't offer as many as possible. And I don't blame them because the counselors through our research show that the average in the United States is 1 to every 386 students. So it's impossible for you to know and align a student up with a career path if they don't have one person trying to account for 386 kids. So I think that the trades are valuable. I think that it's no longer underrated. And we have a magazine that we produce biannually, and we cover stories of Gen Z, millennials, individuals who pivot that we just talked about, who end up changing in life. And I'm a product of that environment because I'm a real estate practitioner. And that's something that's not really talked about in schools. And I've been licensed for 39 years now. I've punched a time clock since I was 22 years old. So it's been truly a blessing. I control my own destiny. And that's an opportunity that I think that should be presented. And if they don't choose to take that opportunity, as well as other opportunities in careers such as cranes and rigs and elevator mechanics and escalator mechanics and things that are not the traditional trades, they need to be able to look at a wide spectrum and make an intelligent decision.
And so last but not least, I'll talk from the perspective of, again, a dean that oversees trades and technology at a university. So not traditional in the Canadian context, which is different than the American context. We have trades training right within a university that offers maths and sciences and arts. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to come and talk today was because I feel like I'm constantly pushing against the system. Even the vernacular of trades versus academic. I hate to tell you this, but trades are academic. Yes. I frequently say lives are dependent upon the work of trades workers. Everybody that made it to this site today, you drove a vehicle, which is dependent upon the work of trades workers. If that vehicle is not maintained or built properly, you are going to die. I hate to tell you this. The lights in this room are microphones. They're done by electricians, trusting that we are not going to be electrocuted. Lights go on fire, this place burns down. So again, it's important to me to come to the table and talk about parity of esteem, which is seeing the trades at the same level yet different than undergraduate. So the one takeaway I'll ask today from everybody before we get into our questioning is to just start by changing our lingo. Stop saying academic versus trades and maybe say undergraduate versus vocational, just to put them on the same level and stop the marginalization of the skilled trades. So with that in mind, I'm going to move us into our first question.
Absolutely.
As panelists, I'm going to ask each of you to address, are students truly making informed decisions, or are they being nudged by societal expectations and institutional structures? So I'll start here and then we'll move down, but feel free to jump in if you feel.
I would say no, because they don't have all the information. It's sort of like asking me to take an exam and I only had a quarter of the book to really read, and I didn't have an opportunity to go through all the material. And so, and then it's the peer pressure too that is taking place, I feel, inside of the schools, because if everybody on this stage is going to college and we're all best friends, I feel pressured that I need to look at going to college as well. And so every now and then you see someone break the inertia and come out of that skill set. So from my perspective of what I see and what we've been experiencing is it's not really a situation where they have everything that they need to make these informed decisions. So you can only make a decision based on the choices that you actually have. And I think the choices are limited, and I'm hoping and hopeful that more schools will open up in these areas to consider trades and not look down on a trade as a vocational experience for students.
Very well said, thank you.
I want to answer from the historical approach and what I just saw through the years. You know, we come from the agrarian era of farming, and then there was the industrial era of manufacturing. Well, it seemed in the 90s somewhere, there was a lot of pressure on individuals to go to college, because not only were they the next generation and the future of digital age, they also were making improvements from the past, because manufacturing had gone down and many of those plants had begun to close. And so there was a lot of pressure on those students in the 90s to go to college. And there was a big push, everybody go to college. All of your guidance counselors were signing students up for college. You had students looking for grants and funding to go to college. 100% of the students had to fill out the financial aid form, and so on it went. Now we're in this era after COVID, and we see that many students are not prepared for college. They have now taken a look back at vocational schools, which it should have always been an option. The conversation should have been robust and real well-rounded around vocational and college, and allowing students to make their choices based on the information that they had, going back to what you were saying, not having enough information to be able to make a valid choice. I enjoyed the fact that they had vocational classes when I was in school, because it allowed me to go from a job that paid $4.25 to $8.50 an hour, and I was a young mother. I graduated with a nursing certificate. And so I worked as a cashier, making $4.75. Well, I decided I'm going to get married after doing 3 to 6 months in college, because I was not prepared for college. what was college going to do for me at that time? I had not aligned what it was supposed to do at that time because not enough information had been given to me outside of I need to go to college. So after 3 to 6 months, and then I stopped going to college, I was able to fall back on what I learned in school that allowed me to get a job that paid $8.50 and then $12 an hour. It also prepared me for the workforce, so then I went into banking and accounting. So we have to provide our students with enough information and with enough choices about vocational as well as college and what it can do for you. Do know that plumbers now are your new millionaires.
Oh, yeah.
That you do have individuals who work on cars that make 6 figures. Ask your Formula One maintenance car workers out there. So there are plenty of opportunities to make good money, because I do believe that we have to get back to what is the basis of what we are doing when we're working with children on vocations and on college. You know.
Great. Colleen?
So I would agree, no. We don't do a very good job with that. The word of this question as we prepared for this was, that stuck in my mind was, are they being nudged? They're not being nudged. They're being pushed off the cliff.
Yep.
There's no nudging involved. There's a theory in nursing that one of the ones that I love is, and there's an element of it where we all strive for normalcy. But how do you define normalcy? Normalcy is where you come from, who raises you, what happens to you at certain ages. You create your own normal. So there are things in your world that influence you to say, where am I going to be accepted so that I'm normal? If you come from a home of doctors or lawyers, well, they want you to go to law school or go to medical school because that's the normal. So they're not nudging you, they're pushing you. They're grooming you for years and years, where that child may be somebody who likes to play with Legos, had an erector set, wanted to fix things, wanted to take things apart and put them back together. So I think we're not spending enough time either as parents, as caregivers, as educators, looking to see what does the child want, not what do we want for them. And I think I know it was a shift for me as a parent that, for example, my daughter just got engaged. My husband's already making the list. I said, stop. It's not our wedding, it's their wedding.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to be a little bit gentler with, where we direct them based on what do they want. And they may not even know what they want, and what they want now will not be what they want 10 years from now. And give them permission to change their mind, because I have been a nurse for 40 years, but I've done 62 other things in addition to that, so that I could feed that part of myself.
And so I'll say that my dad was a high school teacher, but my dad was a trades teacher in a high school. So most schools have shops. That's what my dad was. So growing up, I got the exposure, but I also got to see as a teacher how he was marginalized. He was put to the side because he wasn't a real teacher. He wasn't an academic teacher, even though a lot of the times he held more credentials than his peers. They had a teaching credential, he had a teaching credential, and a trades credential. But there's this mindset that we have. And one of the themes that I heard as we were talking about the pathways, the nudging or the pushing off the cliff, are those societal perceptions. So that's going to bridge us into our next question, which is, what role do parents, counselors, and educators play in reinforcing or challenging those pathways? So this time around, I'm going to start at the far end and then work back this way.
Sure. This is my favorite question, just because it's holistic in its nature. I think as parents, really our primary job, parents are educators. Parents are there to teach. That's what parents are supposed to do. I think communicating and socializing is an important thing, and also teaching children how to create relationships. I see a lot of, just in my own circle of friends, people need to stop enabling their children and doing everything for them and teaching them how to do it themselves and for themselves. In terms of the counselors, you know, listening, what is that saying? God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so you could listen twice as much as you talk. So I think counselors are supposed to guide and then provide information. I think, Julius, you talked about it. We don't get all they don't give them the information. What is out there? What is the full scope of what the options are? So being current and then using some kind of an assessment tool to see what is your skill set? What are you good at? And then are those things in alignment with what you're interested in? I see that's kind of what counselors are primarily supposed to be doing. And again, open up all the options for people. Educators, we don't have enough time to talk about what we're supposed to do because we kind of get to do everything. It's a privilege to be able to touch people's lives in ways. You know, I've had nursing students at the adult level of nurses going back to get their BSN after they've been working and, you know, teaching them how to write. I had adult nurses who were writing papers like they were charting in a chart. And I'm like, okay, you know, this is not a complete sentence, right? And my very first class I had, it was when I stopped using a red pen because one of the student women said, I thought my paper was bleeding. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, but you corrected everything. I said, yes, I did. She goes, no teacher has ever taken the time to actually write the paper I was supposed to write. And so, you know, it's ongoing what we do. We have no idea whose lives we touch when we teach. We just don't know. I'm still friends with 3 or 4 of those people that I met 30 years ago as adult learners, and you know, went on to help many of them in their graduate work. So, you know, our job is, I'm going to look to all of you to tell me because it's different every day for me. I have to do a different thing every day depending on who I'm with.
Thank you. So as a former school counselor and also a school counselor trainer for those who are in their practicum, I work with them, and in my experience, I work with the elementary students and teach them to work with the elementary students on careers A through Z. I did not focus at the time when I was a counselor if it was vocational or if you had to have a degree at that time, unless we were talking about what you needed in order to obtain that particular career. The main focus was these are the types of careers that you can go into. And so we did A through Z. And as an elementary school counselor, I want to say this, you have opportunities to do so many things with those students. So it's great to take out the opportunity to make sure you're working with those students. And the A through Z career opportunities allows you to talk about all of those careers in between, whether it's vocational or whether it is you have to have a degree in order to be able to work in that profession. They will have parades, they will dress up, we will have community members come in and share. And so they got to see it not only from videos or me giving examples, but also from people that actually did those jobs that could come in and share with them. At the middle school and high school level, I get it. A lot of individuals say we don't have the opportunity to talk to students about vocations in careers and what all it takes, a bachelor's and how many years it's going to take. But I say do make that time for it. In middle school and high school, I always made time to work with the students, also focusing on those students that are in special education. We will have like a special education month. We would call it, you know, I forgot the name that we called it, but what those students could do was share their differences. We had pamphlets, we had individuals that would come out and share about different careers. So there's all types of things that you can do, but they just need that exposure. And that is the main thing as a school counselor that I would say. Make sure the students are exposed, and whatever level you are at, regardless of how tight your schedule is, there's oftentimes throughout the year where those things can be made available.
And I would say that the vast majority of the teachers do a fantastic job, principals, counselors, although they're underpaid and overworked. And from a parent perspective, I feel like the parents, I know it's going to be difficult for a lot of parents because you want to make sure that you cradle your son or daughter to make sure that they go in the right direction. But I think you got to give them an opportunity to do something without being judgmental. So if I could cite two quick examples, I have an example of a guy in Dallas who was in school and he dropped out his second year because his mentor, and mentors are good, told him he should be a plumber. And his mom had a fit because everybody has degrees in the house and the family. And in 2023, this kid made $85,000. In 2024, he made over $100,000. His peer group is just graduating from college, and they have student loan debt. And he also has his HVAC license, his electrical license, wow. And he's pursuing entrepreneurship without a college degree, which is one of the reports that we wrote. And so this is what happens when now she's supportive, like, oh my God, that's great. That's, I can't believe it. It worked out great for him. So, and if it doesn't work out, they will pivot, they will shift and get back in alignment. Now, the other one's a little bit more difficult. The second story is a young man was going to a private school. I live in Cleveland, Ohio, and I won't state the name of the school, but they were paying about $40,000 a year. And he decided he's not going to go to college. And so he wanted to become an electrician. And so right now he's going through his apprenticeship, and I'm sure it'll work out with that young man too. But when we did our podcast and had the father on, he said, well, we certainly didn't send him to this school to become an electrician, And so he said that in a probably joking way, because when you're spending $40,000 a year, you're paying college tuition while the kid is in high school. But at the end of the day, it's going to work out. They have to do what they desire or have an interest to do. And I go back to the restaurant. You've never taken a kid to a restaurant and given them the menu and they didn't pick what they want. They may not have been happy with the decisions, but they made the decision. You did not order a hamburger or a chicken sandwich or steak. That kid ordered, or young man or young lady ordered what they wanted. Now, it might not have turned out the way they didn't like the way it tasted, but they did it. And you're preparing them for life if you allow them to make the decisions as a parent and you be supportive. And I think that's what's critically important.
Yeah. And I think an interesting point that you brought up when you talk about school counselors are success stories of undergraduate education. Mm-hmm. So when you have somebody that's in that position that is a success story from undergraduate education that has received their teaching credential, moved into an institution, and is now guiding and mentoring young people, whether it's at the elementary or middle school or high school level, or, sorry, I don't know the terms down in the States. I think you have freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Is that right?
Yes. Yep, you got it.
I did know it. That sometimes, because I've had success in undergraduate education, I'm going to see a student and guide them in the path that brought me success. And maybe sometimes in the back of my brain think, you're struggling a little bit. Maybe trades is the pathway that's best for you. Instead of, I'm at the pinnacle of my career, in theory. Maybe it won't, pardon me, actually hit for another 40 years. But, wanting people to follow the steps that I've taken that led to success. So I think sometimes maybe, and this is going to lead us into our next question, is this really a numbers problem, or is it a perception and values proposition? And I know that there's a lot packed in that question. Anybody feel like fielding it? Everybody just not looking at me?
Repeat the question again.
Okay,
I'm going to have to throw my lifeline out to some of the audience.
So encouraging students to come into the trades as opposed to going a traditional university pathway, is it a values? Is it values laden? Like thinking back to what we were talking about with parents. I want my child to get a university education. As parents, do they know what that really means? So is it a values perception of, you talked about the history of trades and that, like that marginalized, lower paying, dirty grunt work. Is it maybe we don't understand the paths that we're encouraging students to take and we're going in with idealized views?
I believe it has to do with perspectives and values. Going back to the different eras as we transitioned from industrial to college, and now we're both looking at vocations and college and making sure that students are doing something that they're going to be successful in, something that they can be competitive and proud of. The pride was in being able to say, oh, my son or daughter is in college.
Yeah.
If someone were to say, my son or daughter is going to vocational school and being a plumber, at one point in time, people would say, oh. But now, because we know more and we have more information within the community, and I think going back to sharing information is not just sharing and exposing the children, but also the parents. So it's very important when we're talking to children that we also have meetings and some type of conference or something that involves the parents as well. I used to do Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock, and it was easy to get parents in to share with them about different vocations, different careers, having conversations with the children. We might do like a bingo night, and I would do a giveaway because I wanted the parents to be involved. So if parents have more information, they can be proud of their son or their daughter and stick their chest out and say, yes, well, my daughter, my son is going to school for nursing or technology or to become an electrician.
I think it is very much a value-based piece, because what we value as what our kids are doing, we cannot help ourselves to say that's a reflection of the job we did.
Yes.
So if they're reach these very high pinnacle professional kind of jobs, I know I have a nephew who, he's brilliant. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He's, got a master's degree, a PhD from Oxford, Stanford, and a law degree from Stanford. Wow. And he's amazing. He's the nicest kid. But when I told him to put the 2 glasses down from the cabinet, he stood there and didn't quite know what to do with them. But the value system for my sister and her husband is he needs to be very highly successful, and they can then look at that as a reflection of what they did. And our value systems for everyone are different. My value system for my kids are you contributing to society? Do you help people? Are you kind? And are you off my payroll? So, that's my value system. How they choose to do that is their life. It's not my life, it's their life. So I think value systems for families or whatever situation children find themselves in is a huge influence. Is where will I be accepted emotionally by the people around me? Because we all want to be accepted. So I think value systems are a huge influence on choices that children make.
And I would say quickly that the pendulum is swinging. I think in the past it's always been college, but now trades is rising up for 2 reasons. One, you go into it quicker and you start making money. And the other reason, you don't have quite as much debt. So college now is associated with the financial obligation. If you're not an athletic or academic scholarship and you have to pay for it, then some parents in some cases are starting to look at it. But again, the cream of the crop has always been the college degree, but I think trades are making a major move as we go around the country talking and speaking at schools and talking to parents and doing stories in our magazine and podcast. That's what they're talking about. Get a trade and get involved with something as simple as welding. And right now they need 320,000 jobs by the year 2029, and they're not going to make it. Why they need so many welders? They got to put the data centers together for AI. So there's value there. We just have to expose.
I think it's unfortunate that Sterling, from what I can see, is not still here, because one of the things, I mean, bringing it full circle, what Sterling said was, what do you do? Right? What do you do? And when there's value from the time that we're very young right through to adulthood, and you're making decisions on what do you do related to how do you make your parents proud? How do you keep up with your peers? You know, the decisions that you make all come back to that question that we often ask ourselves, which is, what do you do? Right? I'm a dean. What do you do? President, counselor, nurse, entrepreneur, right? And that it's such an identifying piece of who we are, and we don't want anything that's a negative attached to that focus.
So true.
Yes.
So I'm completely unaware of time because I don't know when we started, so I don't know.
When we're supposed to stop?
Yeah, I'm not sure when we're supposed to stop. I see a 3 being held up.
5.
Which
5 minutes.
5 minutes, which tells me we have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions,
Questions?
if anybody.
Yes. Oh, we got some questions.
Right here? Oh, 11 minutes,
okay.
even better. Oh, sorry, I think it was right
in
here.
front here was someone.
Oh, or not.
We'll get you, don't worry.
We see you.
Am I on?
Yes.
Good. My name is Rhonda, and this conversation is bringing back amazing memories. I'm going to be very transparent, and I don't want anyone in this room repeating what I'm about to say. But I graduated from high school 50 years ago. And at the age of 14, 15, my entire family knew I was obsessed with beauty. I bought all the glamour magazines, and I wore wigs to junior high school, because that's what it was called then. But I went to high school. Of course, I graduated. I graduated at 17. And it was common that you automatically went to college. I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to be a makeup artist in Hollywood. And that would always be my answer. What do you want to do? Well, I want to be a makeup artist in Hollywood. But as it turns out, I did go to college. I went to Wayne State University. And I could only be there for a very short time because my mind was on being a makeup artist in Hollywood. So eventually I had a conversation with my mom, and I said, can I leave college? And she almost stunned me, but then I wasn't that surprised because she said, yeah. Now, my grandmother had a fit. But I'm bringing all this up because I'm sitting here and I'm dumbfounded that after all these years, not much has changed. And just to back up, to give it a little more context, I stayed in the beauty industry for 27 years. A co-owner of a beauty salon, had my own line of makeup, trained under a facialist, so I had a level of success. But to hear that nothing's changed, so I don't really have a question. So, well, I do. Why hasn't it changed in 50 years? That is so disheartening.
I have a full dissertation, if you want to read it, about all the reasons it has not changed. Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate part, I will answer that, and
Sure.
Of course the panel is welcome to answer as well, is I think that the hierarchical structures that we have in post-secondary education necessitate keeping the status quo. And I think it's really unfortunate that we do that to youth. It prevents us from changing the system, but it's so many of those hierarchical structures are embedded in the systems that are supposed to support our young people, but instead stream them. But congratulations to you on following your dream and following through.
Yes.
Huge success to you.
Yes.
Did anybody else want to answer that before I pass it on to our beautiful next speaker?
I just want to say one thing is, I think it has changed in some ways, but not in ways to make things move fast enough. I look at it from because I graduated 50 years ago too, and back then, I look at what choice did women have? So that part has changed. We get to pick more things.
That's true.
About what we want to be. So I think some things have changed, and I think other things, for all of these reasons with barriers, are keeping things the way they are. So I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility. We just need to keep chipping away at it little by little, so that we can make those changes. My daughter's doing things, and even my mother, gave us choices. The fact that girls were even directed to college back then, that wasn't really so normal. I was in the sciences, and I had boys asking me what grade I got because they were so competitive, and if I did better than them, they were mad. So I think for women, things have changed.
So for the sake of time, I'm going to hand it over to our next question.
Oh, thank you so much. I am also very excited to hear about this. I have what they like to say now is 7 college degrees, and when I tell young people that I started with a 2-year degree, they're just amazed. They're like, why would you do that? Why did you stay in school so long? And so my question to you all is not so much about the what, it's the how. My work looks at the lack of diversity in design disciplines, and so I'm really interested in exposing young people to design and creativity and these types of things. Where do you all go to help your creative students find their 2-year pathway, their trades pathway? Where are you putting them so that I know where to be at to be able to work with those types of students?
So I have a question that I ask all students, and it's this. If money were not an issue,
Yes.
what is one thing that you could do and you just feel like you could do it for the rest of your life and just really enjoy it if it were your career? And just as simple as that. And some say, well, this is what I do now and I enjoy it. And we'll move forward in those conversations. And some have no idea. And some need motivation. They don't think that they can do anything. So that means we explore and look at where they are academically, because every student does not perform academically high. And so we have to be vested in the levels of that child and what they're capable of at that time, and help them with a pathway of how they can move forward and grow.
And for the others, the educational pathways, particularly the first 2 panelists, where are you all finding people who are like-minded for your creative students to discover these pathways? Because then that's how I'll know where to put my organization at.
Well, what we sort of do is do a brain share in terms of sharing information and sharing stories, just to kind of enlighten them and wake them up in terms of what the possibilities are. And by doing that, it helps them to sort of uncover what they can actually do and things that they haven't really thought about in terms of different careers. And that's what we try to showcase and share with them. And so we do that through our digital magazine, podcast, and we're working on an app. And I have a book that should be complete in about 45 days called Career Channels, and it's talking about career paths for individuals like your students.
Excellent.
I would say there's also a personality test. When you said that, that's what made me think about the personality test.
You know, I love a really good personalities test. I use one from Adobe called the Adobe Creative Type, and I have my students take this so that I understand what kind of types I'm working with, right? I know what my type is, and understanding that helps them to better understand about their creative type. But I'm really interested in understanding what places do you all go when you have a student who says they're creative. Where do you go to find that person that they can connect with, that mentor, that person who's doing the thing that they want to do? What kind of places do you send them to?
Well, everybody that we interview, We had a gentleman that was a filmmaker, and we send them, we say when we interview you, you have to agree that if a student would like to talk to you about a career or just have a conversation, that you would be open to having that conversation. And that's what we do with filmmakers, and giving them options of what they can look at in terms of their careers.
And from a post-secondary perspective, I think the best thing that we ever launched was trades exploration. So we partner with high schools that are in the region. We go to the schools, or we have the students come to my university and get some hands-on experience. We've created, and apologies, don't trademark this, we've done an Amazing Race. Anybody know Amazing Race? So we've created Amazing Race-like experiences where students have to go from shop to shop and do an activity, and only once they finish the activity do they get to move to the next shop. We've done that with grades 8 through 12. We'd like to tap into the younger student population. We also did it with the university board. So these are people that represent the university. Their only employee is the president of our university. And we had them do the same experience so that they could really understand what trades training is about and vocational training. And then one of the other things that we do is called the Youth Train in Trades program. So high school students come to the university, or we send one of our instructors to the high school, and they do a full vocational program. So carpentry foundation, automotive foundation, electrical foundation, and it gives them dual credit. And the dual credit system gives them high school, ICU, it gives them high school credits towards graduation, but also their first year university. And within the university, we've also bridged it so that they get the vocational credential, but if they decide they want to do an undergraduate pathway, we give them credits within the institution so that it's not time wasted. And so we try and tap in, we try and go to the students, give them that real hands-on experience that oftentimes is what students are craving that are considering a vocational pathway but haven't necessarily been exposed to it. And I'm going to stop us there because I want to be very respectful of the lady holding up the hand, telling me time is up.
Definitely try to reach out to both of you, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
would love to.
Thank you.
Sure.
So thank you everyone for your time this afternoon, and we look forward to connecting further and chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.